Alright, everyone, is Supreme Kami over here. So now I'm going to be going over the GP03 alteration over here. So I'm going to do very similar things as I did for the build burning alteration review. Going to be testing out the EX skill as well. So what I'm going to be doing, just going to be running it as the non-alterated version and then alterated version just to see what kind of damage output differences we can get. I'm pretty sure in terms of the torso as well as the bazooka, we should see a drastically damage increase because of the fact that prior to alteration, I believe this is only looking at a D power. So upon alteration, we will be receiving up to like a what, B plus power. So it should be a fairly significant number change right there. Same goes for the bazooka as well. I recall it's only looking at a D power. Okay, so after alteration, we should be looking at a B plus power. Yeah, so that's why it's gonna be a lot more powerful upon alteration. But in terms of, let's say, the backpack, I feel like the rapid thrust should be powerful enough prior to alteration already. So this is probably something I'm not really gonna showcase off. It's pretty much gonna be self-explanatory. You're not really getting that like omega like power boosting right there, or just let's say damage multiplier. I recall it should be sitting at B or it's already at A minus. So yeah, there's really no point in alterating the backpack, I would have to say. But alright, without any further ado, let me actually start things up by looking at the head. But I do have to say that in terms of the overall build, this unit itself is definitely leaning towards like a dual type build, just because of what kind of war tag is actually operated. So okay, so we got Protect Federation. So Federation does actually work for both a melee build and shot build, no problem, because it actually boosts melee attack and shot attack as well as shot defense by 5% right there. So pretty good overall. In terms of the overall stat, I think it's fairly averaging out as well. 3k for melee attack, 9k for your shot attack. So obviously the head is like more or less like a really foundation part for like a shooting build. So this one is not really like ridiculously high, so that's why I can just kind of tell this is more or less like a dual type build. Defensive value is fairly close to each other as well. So in terms of the portrait, okay, the first portrait is obviously not going to be anything too good anyways, because it's only going to be piercing boosting, so it's not really going to be that much powerful. So kind of sad in that regards. But upon alteration, you are going to receive a power boosting, which is pretty solid. If you are someone that is running, let's say, Federation, I feel like the second portrait is definitely going to help you guys out by a lot. First portrait is more like a habit or not habit type of deal. So even if you say, oh, I want to put this on like a different attribute, you can. I just that I don't feel like the first trait is that important. So yeah, definitely not a bad alteration, for sure. But maybe the stat is not going to be too much appealing if you compare directly to, let's say, the build burning, because build burning head is definitely top notch in my opinion. Or is this maybe me? I'm just being a little bit biased on the buff tree right there. So yeah, you guys know me. I love it when they put like the buff EX skill effects up right there. So even this one does have slightly higher melee stat in terms of defensive value. So your 40% change here is definitely going to outshine this one by a lot. And alright, so going over the chest, so we do have a mega beam cannon, the dendrobium. So this is in terms of EX skill, it's gonna be like an upside down. So first of all, you're gonna launch into your dendrobium, and then the dendrobium is gonna point downward with the the mega beam cannon. So literally gonna shoot like a straight line across the map. So it's not really gonna be anything too dramatic. I gotta say, you're not really like chasing down your enemy. So whatever enemy is within that path is gonna get hit. So whatever is not in that path will literally just sit there and not get attacked. So I don't know. I feel like the CXQ is definitely gonna be one of those like for gimmick style, or for the aestheticness. It's not really gonna be for like really doing anything, because like you really gonna miss like if you are gonna take this into like a limited time multi mission, or no, the regular one, where you are gonna face like a group enemy. Just best expect you're not gonna get like a one-shot AOE. So yeah. But in terms of overall stat, it's a pretty decently well balanced, I gotta say. Armor is not too shabby. Offensive for both melee and shot is definitely pretty evenly distributed. Defensive wise, it's gonna be evenly spread again. So okay. Not too bad actually. I would have to say that the defensive value is actually a little bit lower than what I wanted to. So yeah, all right. So the word tag again is going to be Protect Federation. So definitely going for that dual type build right there. But definitely, I would have to say Protect is definitely leading by a long shot in terms of what it's going to be able to do. So this one is more or less going to have, if you are going to have the full build for this one, you should see a higher, let's say, melee attack due to having Protect. So all right, moving on to all right. So in terms of do you want to alterate the chest, I think it's gonna be more or less do you want the EX skill? If you do want to do like enormous amount of damage with the EX skill, you would have to alterate it. But yeah, that is gonna be the question you have to ask yourself. So all right, moving on to the torso or the arm right here. The arm does have it's I think it's decent enough, but I do have to say that the defensive value is extremely low for this one over here. So you're not really gonna benefit too much from any of the conversion gear, so it's kind of unfortunate right there, I guess, you know. But in terms of the portrait on this specific set is gonna be really more hit or miss because first portrait having like a critical up is not obviously not gonna be good, especially crit rate boosting. So that is definitely something you can just kind of ignore at that point in time. Second portrait is only going to be focusing on melee power, enemy melee power reduced by 30%. So if you're not someone that wants to do like a defensive build, I think the arm is definitely not going to be something in your favor because this is purely trying to reduce what your enemy is trying to do. So a really specific build, I would have to say, so not going to be for everyone obviously. So I would have to say this is going to be like a 50-50 chance, but more or less this is definitely going to be an arm you don't really want archery because it's not really providing too much for your overall build. So yeah. Alright, moving on to the leg over here, let's see what we have. Alright, in terms of the overall stat, this one I can clearly see that the shot is definitely slightly higher. Maybe 500 for the offensive and then maybe 400 for the defensive value. So you're not really seeing like a big gap difference over here, so that's kind of good. Armor wise, I can definitely take that. 5k is actually not too bad. So word tag wise over here, you're gonna start some changes to see some mid range over here. Okay. So in terms of the overall portrait, so this is literally the first portrait is gonna be kind of hard garbage because it's gonna be a critical up. So not gonna be of the importance right there. But in terms of the second portrait, upon alteration, you are gonna receive a power shooting power boosting. So the tag or the trait right here is definitely leaning toward like a shooting based build, but this unit itself is definitely not really that case in terms of like what kind of stat we're looking at. So kind of unfortunate that they didn't go for like an EXQ power boosting route. That would have been a lot more better. But this one is not too shabby. I gotta say, it's like after alteration, this should work really fine. But in terms of like trying to put this into a build, it can be a little bit more problematic because you are gonna have protect, so it's not gonna work too well. In most shooting build, obviously mid range is more like a I don't know. Mid range is kind of like in a really own bubble. Is yeah, you're not really receiving too much love from it. So I do have to personally say that the leg is kind of like a dangerous place to be in. Just not too well rounded and not really to eat. Not gonna be too easy to use. So yeah, probably I don't know. Probably not going to be a first choice obviously. So yeah. Alright, moving on to the backpack over here. So like I said again, I feel like the EXQ is already perfect prior to alteration already. I think the point of alterating this is purely for the stat purposes over here. And I do have to say that this is definitely going to be leading toward again to melee, but in terms of overall word tag, I don't think it's that much beneficial of having this type of setup over here. I think in the long term, like in terms of subslotting for like whatever tag you want, it's really going to hurt because of this right here. So yeah. I would have to say the offensive for melee is not really as strong anyway, so this is probably going to be a skip for me anyways, just because I don't want to deal with like a problem with having to kind of match like a word tag. So kind of fortunate right there, so probably going to be a skip for me. The overall stat is not too bad. Obviously you're looking at like a mid 3k right there, and also like a more or less like a mid 3k for your armor or your defensive value. So with that 40% change Q, I think it should perform pretty well. But you know, the word tag wise is pretty bugging me right there. I guess, you know, as well as the EXQ not being anything of like really flashy, not anything of excitement, I guess. So yeah, definitely gonna be a skip for me. Alright, moving on to the bazooka over here. So we got a, what is it over here? So this one is actually not bad. So this is purely going to be firing like a few rounds of bazookas, rockets over here. So I believe in this animation EXQ, it actually, so once you use this EXQ, I recall you actually backtrack a little bit. Your unit actually takes like a few steps back. So you primarily want to use it. If I were to use it myself personally, I will probably close in on my enemy before using it, because I know that I'll be backing up like a few spaces, so I don't want to have that distance. So it's not too bad overall. You are going to receive like a B plus power up to alteration. So this is definitely something you would alterate if you want to maximum power, because prior to alteration you are only looking at a D power, so it's fairly low. So but in terms of overall stat for the bazooka specifically, it's not too bad actually. Rounding up to like 11,200 is actually fairly good, so not bad. But in terms of overall war tag wise, having pro tag mid range is probably not your best combo. But I mean, they're definitely gonna be something that works with this overall setup. But in terms of bazooka setup, I don't even think we have that many big scale barrel calls. So if I do big scale, we target bazooka specifically. I don't think we have. Okay, we only have one actually. And it's not really gonna work in terms of like actually subslotting it, so kind of unfortunate, I would have to say. And then the limited one we have is gonna be the unicorn. So yeah, not really that much, but I might have to say maybe this one will work really good, because this one does have federation, so definitely something to just kind of look out for, I guess, but not really chase for this part. But I'm just showing you guys that in terms of bazooka, we really don't have any good option. So probably you don't want this bazooka right here to be like as a main weapon you're really using. I feel like using anything that is within the rifle category, just the regular rifle should be better, just because we do have a lot more option. But in terms of right now you want to alterate it, this is purely based on if you want to use this EXQ specifically. If you do, I personally do feel like alterate it, you know, just to be able to get that B plus power over here. But other than that, if you really don't have any interest into this bazooka, definitely gonna be a hot skip for sure. Alright, so last thing we need to go over is actually gonna be the shield. And then in terms of overall shield wise, I had to say that I don't know why there's actually higher shot defense. I don't know. That really does not make sense to me. But I guess this is a dual type build, so that's why they have that approach. But other than that, war tag wise, pro tag and federation definitely not a bad combo for sure. In terms of the EXQ or the portrait, excuse me, first portrait is definitely gonna be a hot skip for sure. The second portrait, so after 10 seconds have elapsed, so EXQ, what is it? Enemy shooting power reduced by 30%. So, so this unit itself does have a lot of like enemy reduction type traits. So kind of interesting to see that actually. So, but like I said again, if enemy power reduction type is not really a thing, the backpack is the shield, excuse me. The shield is definitely going to be a hot skip for sure, because it's not really providing that much anyways. 30% is not really going to save your life by any means, so probably going to be a hot skip for me personally. If you purely do want to alter the shield for the stat sticking purposes, you can actually. I would have to say this one is probably going to be a lot more suitable for a shooting base specifically, just because you do see that the shot attack is actually a lot more higher than your melee attack, and then definitely the shot defense is extremely high. But yeah, that is going to be pretty much it. So I'm not really like satisfied, I guess, with the alteration. I just feel like they could have done a little bit more in terms of the portrait wise. So I think they're just not really that good. But in terms of EXQ, definitely excited for the Dendrobium alteration. Like, you know, definitely excited to test it out. Like right now, I don't have it alterated yet, so I don't really know what kind of damage we can be looking at. But yeah, even the Bazooka EXQ, kind of looking forward to using it. But in terms of the backpack, not really. But yeah, so now let me actually roll in some friend battle for you guys and see what kind of differences we can see. Okay, so that is going to be the quick EXQ showcase review for you guys over here. So in terms of the chest EXQ, I was surprised to find that after alteration that I was able to do less damage for whatever reason. Do keep that in mind. In terms of damage fluctuation, is a pretty big thing in game, but in terms of the Bazooka EXP, we were able to see a astonishingly bigger damage or just higher output. So that was quite relief right there, because like that was a pretty good alteration there. But in terms of this one, I'm not even sure why we did less damage, but this one is definitely a solid option. You guys definitely see that I was able to take down the enemy, while prior to alteration I was like probably roughly halfway through. So yeah, do let me know how do you guys feel about the alteration for our GP03 over here, and which part will you guys even alter. So with that being said, that is going to be pretty much it, and I'll catch you guys all on the next one.